Well, get your red, white, and blue ready. We're gearing up for the Summer Olympics in Paris. Yes, we're talking women's and men's basketball. Sure, this country is divided, but we can all get behind Team USA. Let's do this thing. Sin City Beat starts right now.
From Las Vegas, this is Sin City Beat.
Hello and welcome. Thanks for joining us on Sin City Beat. I'm Mike Davis. Sin City Beat is the show that dissects the Vegas sports world through the eyes of the sports reporters and storytellers leading the charge. Now, on today's show, we're previewing Team USA basketball as they head to Paris for the Summer Games. Joining the action, we got Jack Williams, sports reporter with the Las Vegas Sun, our very own Mariah, Janos, sports reporter with Fox 5 Las Vegas, and Steve Cofield, host of Cofield and Company on ESPN Las Vegas. Great to have you guys with us. Let's dive right in. So the men's squad went 5-0 in the showcase games that they play. There's certainly some concern. I mean, watch that South Sudan game, even the game against Germany. A lot to go and dissect with these guys. But Steve, how are you reading into these games particularly?
Well, they don't have the full squad, so you have to take that into account, right? Kevin Durant wasn't out there. I think they're still working on the starting lineup and the rotations, still working on their rhythm. I take them as a sign that this is going to be a competitive men's field. I don't think they're going to roll through this. Odds-wise, they're minus 400 to win the gold, but yeah. I think they can be caught, and it doesn't say anything bad about them. The U.S. set this up back in '92. We brought the world on board for basketball, and now it's 30 years later, and you see the progress of the rest of the world. There's a lot of good players and some really good international teams around the world.
And that brings up a good point. 92, I was born in 92, but that was the dream team. It was also the dream year when Mike Davis was born. No. But seriously, that dream team, I mean, a lot of people, some of those guys were older, right? I mean, Larry was older, Magic was older. A lot of those guys, how do you think this team, this squad stacks up with that roster?
Well, I mean, it's compared to the dream team back in, 92, correct?
Yes.
I was born in 97, so.
A little age gap.
But, I mean, it was a whole different thing into just the United States wanting to show the rest of the world, hey, this is our game, and we want to establish this as we are dominant and stuff like that. I think you made a good point, too, of just saying that the rest of the world is catching up at this point, of kind of looking back and now saying, everyone is kind of in a similar pace now. And I think it's a product of what you said with the dream team of now that kind of the world is catching up, that the United States might need to battle a little harder. And this might be, I guess, a prove-it team maybe, that while everyone's kind of on the same, standing now, the United States might have to be, this is still our game.
But also, look at this year's NBA draft, the amount of international players that were taken this year. And not that there haven't been international players in the league this entire time, but you're just looking at some of these rosters and you're like, wow, I didn't even realize there's that many international players, like NBA players, playing for that country. And that's why it's kind of leveling out the playing field here, especially, look at Serbia, who they're about to play.
Yeah, Jokic, they're in their group. We're going to be talking about that a little later on in the show. But yes, Risha, Shea, Sar, the NBA is becoming way more international. We've seen it with Janos and Jokic and all this kind of stuff. But do you read into these games? if LeBron wasn't playing, this team probably would have lost 2 games down the stretch for a 39-year-old. For how he was, 4 for 4 one game down the stretch. Scoring 11 points in the fourth quarter. Germany, South Sudan games, they could have lost to South Sudan. Some people on social are saying, I didn't even know South Sudan had a team. That was me. Steve, explain. How can this happen when you have a roster with Curry and Embiid, AD, Tatum, all these guys? How can you almost lose to South Sudan?
Because a collection of players doesn't make a team. So they have great individual talent, but it doesn't mean they're a true team. And this is what happened to us back in 2004, 6, and 8, before we really figured it out to try to put together a team. I still think this has the feel of an all-star team instead of pieces that really fit. It doesn't mean they're not going to win, but chemistry is not going to come together over the course of just a couple of months. So it's going to be interesting. And on LeBron, I'm glad he's on the team. I'm glad he's saving him. His downhill style plays to international basketball. I will keep in mind, or everyone should keep in mind, that end of game situations, they've got 7 guys they could go to. Yeah. Right now, LeBron is the guy because he can get to the basket. But I think if LeBron wasn't on the team and they needed Steph Curry to hit a big shot down the stretch, or Jason Tatum, or many of the other players, they could do it. But right now, LeBron's the guy. The rest of the team has got to pick it up, though, from a defensive standpoint.
It looked like the Lakers playoff game, honestly, when they're down, and then LeBron just goes on a tear and he comes up clutch, and that's how it is. But as you mentioned, to your point, I'm going to quote the legend that is Herb Brooks really quick. All-star teams fail because they rely solely on the individual's talent. you win when you take that talent and use it inside a system that's designed for the betterment of the team. What held true in 1980 holds true to this day, approaching the Olympic Games, no matter what sport it is. And that's what we're seeing here. These guys, there's still some miscues. They're still trying to figure out how to work together. And we really saw it in the USA-Canada game here at T-Mobile Arena. The first 5 minutes, USA was down 11-1. Wild score, and it took Steve Kerr standing there really going through his rotations and taking notes of what works and what doesn't, and they've used these exhibition games to figure that out. So I'm not exactly surprised that some of these games were close and they almost lost them.
And I also think, listen, it's kind of like the NFL after the Chiefs, after you win the Super Bowl, every team looking at their schedule, they know they got to give 10 out of 10 effort when they play the Chiefs. So South Sudan, when they play Team USA, a lot of these guys, it's like they got posters of LeBron on their wall. So it's like we want to go play LeBron the best we can. So I think the intensity and the interest level of the competition, they're going to get South Sudan's best play when they play Team USA. I think that's very evident as well. So when we're talking about this real quickly before we get into the next block, anything else to look into from these games? Team Canada, who they beat, like you said, a lot of star players on that.
Right.
A lot of people are looking to them and France as two big-time competitors. Out of these showcase games, what do you think we take away most of all from that competition, Steve? Anything big?
You got to play better defense, and you got to play it all the time. You can't just press on the gas pedal when you feel like it. It's got to be consistent across the board. And then Steve Kerr's got to figure it out on short notice what the best combos are.
Yeah. And guess what? That's what we're going to be doing next, because coming up, we're going to be having some fun. Yes, our panel is going to be selecting their very own starting five. We're talking combinations, all that good stuff. That's after a short break.
You're watching Sin City Beat.
All right, welcome back to Sin City Beat. All right, let's have some fun, and let's all be Steve Kerr here for a second. Jack, if you coach this team, what would your starting five be?
Yeah, so when I built these teams, I based it off of just the South Sudan and Germany game and what went well, what didn't go well for them. And, the two really big points that were working well with them, I'm so happy that graphic's right there. I was like, oh my God. LeBron James, like we mentioned, he's just been the beating heart of what they've been doing right now. Joel Embiid has been really good too. Those have been some really consistent pieces for them right now. Just the forward play for them has been what's been keeping them alive. AD off the bench has been fantastic too. And these have been guys who have been getting them points. I put Steph Curry in there. The guard play hasn't been great in these past few games, but this is a guy that's been, clutch in the moment when he needs to be. I think this is a guy that could really, it's Steph Curry. He can come along and stuff like that. Anthony Edwards, another guy I think off the bench is another guard that's been playing well. Again, the guard play just hasn't been great in these past two games. A lot of leaning on the forwards and the centers and stuff like that, but in the moment of what they have right now, I believe, in my opinion, this would work best for me. Again, I'm not Steve Kerr, but this is kind of like my concoction.
No, there you go. We like it. All right, Mariah, you're next. Let's hear your starting five.
All right, so let's pull up that graphic. Thank you so much. All right, so here you have it. It's a little similar. This is assuming KD's healthy, ready to go. If, the U.S. is struggling with that half-court flow, maybe they'll look to him for some shots.
Yeah.
He's a dynamic wing player, so I really like him there. Steph Curry, as you mentioned, Steph Curry. He keeps defenses on their toes. He's a facilitator. Anthony Edwards, this is where the youth kind of comes in, because the rest of these guys are like 30 plus. And then you got Anthony Edwards, who's so aggressive and really just attacks the basket. He's so consistent with his effort, I feel like. LeBron James, clutch down the stretch, will make those tough shots, will really take matters into his own hands when he has to. And honestly, I like Anthony Davis in this position better than Joel Embiid. I think he's been a little bit more aggressive, and with the FIBA rules, he can be more aggressive around the rim, and I think he'll just let it rip. So I like Anthony Davis at the center spot as well. So that's where I'm at.
It's crazy because Steph and AD, both first-time Olympians for them, which is crazy to think about that, which is nuts. All right, Steve, you're next. Steve Kerr it up.
So I go with the all-star team. By the way, I want point guard and 4 forwards.
All right.
Positionless basketball.
Tear it up.
That's FIBA ball.
Tear it up.
Now, this lineup, not to wreck the theme of this block.
Yeah.
They're not going to be in at the end of the game with this mix. This is just come out, try to blitz them with a really good offense. By the way, I'm really glad when you labeled it that Durant, because I think on Mariah's, Durant was the power forward and LeBron. No, LeBron is the power forward. He's the power guy. This is the lineup coming out, a little shock and awe, but down the stretch, you got to have more defensive players out there.
Okay.
We have so much differentiation here. And let's pull up mine because I think I'm going to get a lot of fun.
Oh, that's terrible.
Right?
All right, hold on. Let's hold our horses. Here we go. I think this whole USA basketball thing, it's about where are we different? It's depth, right? We have a lot of depth, and I think the places we can get beat is in the half-court game. We want to speed up the floor. All these other teams are going to try to slow us down, and they're going to beat us on the boards. When you see the Germany game, when you see the South Sudan, even the effort from AD and Joel Embiid isn't great, the way that they're attacking the board. So I think if you can make sure you have, a front court with AD and Embiid there, you're going to get a lot more boards having both of them in the fold. You still have Bam coming off the bench, and you're going to have a lot of length. But Drew Holiday, that's a glue guy. You need glue. The chemistry is where we don't have a lot of help. Drew Holiday can be that glue. Steph can worry about making shots rather than creating shots, and LeBron's got to be there. And then look, you can have KD with his calf issues coming off the bench, not taking so much load. Anthony Edwards thinks he deserves to be in the starting five, but he's a young gun who should be trying to earn his keep. I don't know. I think when you look at that, it's a team where it's like, man, this is depth. Then you're going to have KD, you're going to have Tatum, you're going to have Anthony Edwards. That's all coming off the bench. I don't know. I love it. Listen, put it this way. All I know is Tyrese Halliburton shouldn't be in any starting lineup. That's what we know.
He's been saying this all morning. So
I'm not a big Tyrese Halliburton guy. I don't know what to say.
I very much feel a sense of arrogance, though, when we're putting together a lineup. Like, it doesn't matter. USA is going to win.
Is it? Well, you know what? We're going to be talking about that later, how certain that is. Next up, though, we got to shift to the WNBA. Yes, the WNBA brought some true shock value in the All-Star game. Yeah, Team WNBA beat Team USA. After the break, we're breaking down the upset and the snubs from Team USA. All right, last weekend in the WNBA All-Star game, Team WNBA took down Team USA 117-109. Yes, led by Arike Ogunbowale, who set a WNBA All-Star game record with 34 points, earning her second All-Star game MVP. Before we talk about the snubs on Team USA, because a lot of people want to talk about that, Mariah, let's talk about what we should make of this big-time upset.
Frankly, I'm not making much of it. This WNBA All-Star team, I feel like some of them maybe are feeling a little butthurt, if you will, that they didn't make the Olympic roster. So they're going harder. They're about to go on break. They've got time to chill. A'ja Wilson and Breanna Stewart both openly admitted in the post-game media session, when it's the All-Star game, they don't want to play defense. They don't want to give out that effort. It's supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be light, and they're about to go play for Team USA. Why expend all your energy on that? I know they definitely tried to stay in it, but I don't think it was the end-all be-all for this team. Now, following this game and then watching Team USA play Germany, while they did blow them out, it wasn't the cleanest, prettiest game. This Team USA roster is still very much learning how to play together, much like the men's side of things. There are a lot of miscues, a lot of miscommunication, and the only constants from what I've seen have been A'ja Wilson and Breanna Stewart so far.
Well, let's talk about this. Let's make pretend I'm an English lit professor, right? If you're reading an Alexander Dumas novel, right, there's the plot and then there's the subplot. The subplot to this is actually what's going on with Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese and all this star power that's invigorating women's basketball, and the fact that they're not on an Olympic roster. That's the subplot. It's kind of like, listen, we all know what's going on in the Count of Monte Cristo, but there's a lot of stuff in the subplot. Let's talk subplot for a second, Jack. What do we think about this? This upset when Ogunbowale, who's not on the USA roster, goes off. When Caitlin Clark leads the team with assists, with 10 in that game. When you have Angel Reese, all these people, and they're not on the roster. Does it make you feel like we're wrong and Team USA is wrong?
I mean, there's one player that I feel like that they were kind of wrong about. It's Ogunbowale, really. When you go off for that many points, and she was dominating the league before that with Dallas. She was leading before, A'ja Wilson really took off.
She makes every shot.
She is unbelievable. She's still playing the same consistency she was at Notre Dame. I think that's a true snub in my opinion. With Caitlin Clark, I love Caitlin Clark. I went to school in the Midwest. I'm from the Midwest and stuff like that. It's amazing to watch her play, but it's a more aggressive game at the FIBA level, at the Olympic level, and we've seen that she kind of struggles a little with that aggressiveness as well. And yes, she's able to dish out the ball. That's a key part of the game and stuff like that. But that aggressiveness factor really puts a play into it.
Okay, Mariah was in the back office before this, screaming all day long with producer James Everett Berrickman in my ear right now. Steve, do you agree with me, this whole subplot thing?
Yes.
Let's go to English Lit class.
First of all, there's no snub with Enrique. She pulled out. She pulled her name from consideration. Why? She said there's too many politics. So because of the politics of this team, one of our best players isn't going. Because of the politics of this team, people you're going to want to build around in the future who should be getting experience here, Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark are not on the team. That is outrageous. Part of this is growing the game in the U.S. and around the world. They need to be on the team. They're costing themselves viewers, attention. Women's sports needs more attention. It's going to lead to more money.
Right.
You see Cheryl Miller complaining about the $2.2 billion deal with TV and the WNBA. They probably could get more in the future. This is so political, and there are players on this team who frankly don't belong there. And if it's just about medal stacking, then just say that, right? Honestly, Brittany Griner, she's sitting out already. She's not healthy. She's older. She's lumbering up and down the floor.
Right.
That's a spot for Angel Reese.
So
and I don't care if Clark doesn't play. Being on the team brings them attention. And they even said it. If you can't deal with the distraction of her not playing and that'll become the story.
Right.
Come on, grow up.
Well, let's just, because I agree 100% with you, Steve. But playing devil's advocate, a lot of people don't agree with that thought process. Is it because they don't want the truth serum? They don't want to be that straightforward with what the truth is and what we really need for this to build this sport? Or is it just because they feel like, a Caitlin Clark, it's too much? A Cheryl Miller, I don't get the resentment. I don't get the political nature behind all this. Why is it that you can sift through this and other people can't?
There's a jealousy. I think it's straight up. And it doesn't say anything bad about Diana Taurasi. It doesn't say anything bad about other players who are upset that they didn't get all the attention they deserved during their career. Women's basketball in the college level set this up. These were great storylines. It was a rivalry. Just embrace it. You're all going to make money off it. And yeah, back to Agamawali, we need to get down to, why is this political? Why would one of the best 5 players in the country not want to play? That's a problem. Now, it might not affect us now because they're minus 3,000 favorites. But in the next Olympics or the one 8 years from now, the world is going to catch up just like the men. They got to fix this. This to me is very childish.
It's fascinating. And I think, honestly, if Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese and all these players were on Team USA, I think there'd be more interest in women's Team USA than there would be in men's for the Summer Games. And it's kind of fascinating. So anyway, we're going to continue with this theme of upsets. Yes, let's stay with that. Which team is more at risk of being upset? Team USA men's or women's basketball? Yes, the panel is going to answer after these words. All right, welcome back. Well, Team USA women's basketball is eyeing an 8th consecutive gold, while Team USA men's basketball is seeking a 5th consecutive gold medal. The question for my panel, if either team fails to reach that championship game and win the gold, which country is going to be the one making that upset bid? What do you think?
The team that's going to get upset, I think the men have more of a risk of getting upset than the women. I mean, the women look so dominant right now when you have players like Asia Wilson and Breanna Stewart just going back and forth and stuff like that. If you just have somebody that can pass on the ball, you are set just the entire game. With the men's team, especially those games being so close early on, I know it's early on, we don't have everybody healthy just yet, but you don't want to be toying around with that and having teams stay with you. And eventually, and I think it's Serbia that could really, grab them and really catch up
right out of the gate. Ooh. Yeah. Well, I think the thing is with this men's team, like we saw with the South Sudan game, is South Sudan was going off from beyond the arc, shooting 42%. USA was just 25%. You're digging yourself into a hole at that point, and then you got to rely on LeBron to get you out of it. But I think it's one of those situations where if your opposition is catching fire and you can't counter it, that's where they're most vulnerable. And I think that's what could get them into a sticky situation at some point.
I mean, in the Germany game, the amount of three-point shots they took over, USA was crazy. So it's kind of like back to like that old Golden State mentality. If you're shooting and chucking up threes and you're hitting them, you're going to beat a lot of teams if they're falling. But, Steve, beyond Serbia. I think France is a very fascinating team, especially with Gobert, Wemby in the fold, Fournier. Frenchmen know how to play team basketball. That's what they do. They have a lot of talent. They got a lot of young talent as well. What do you think about them?
I think there's 5 or 6 teams that can take them out in a one and done spot. I think they'll get out of the group pretty easily. Serbia is a little bit of a test, but I'm going to go beyond who might be upset. I don't think USA men are going to win the gold. They're minus 400 favorites. I would bet someone else. I think they're going to lose and not win the gold medal. I don't think this team, as it's built right now, could beat the Boston Celtics. Obviously Tatum would be off the team and White would be off the team. I don't think they could beat the NBA champion. I don't think there's enough cohesion. I think the world has caught up to a certain extent. And the other thing, and this is going to be unfortunate, LeBron can be awesome the whole tournament. If they don't win gold, that's on his legacy. It's going to ruin his legacy. People will never forget that. That'll be another notch where they're like, LeBron, choker, not a winner. I'm telling you, this is a really dangerous spot. And all the pressure is on the Americans. That South Sudan game, you're like shaking.
Right.
Like, this is real basketball now. Someone's got to make a shot here. He made it, and they defended. But I'm telling you, man, this is really, really dangerous.
What do we think? I mean, if Jordan was on this team rather than LeBron, what happens there? Would you even question it?
Yeah, I would still question it.
You would?
Yes. Yes, with the rest of the guys, I mean, everyone else has got to play defense.
Yeah. It's gonna come down to unselfish play. And I mean, during their media day when they were here, they were talking about how they're going to be okay with not playing their normal amount of minutes. But I don't know if that's really the facts. And as I think you mentioned it earlier, their opponents are coming with their A game because USA is the team to beat. It's on USA to show up with their A game consistently. And there's a big question mark surrounding whether or not they can do that.
All right, so we got 30 seconds left. So women's, we're pretty sure they're going to get that 11th gold medal. Men, though, we're in agreement. We think they're going to capture it. You really don't.
I'm going to bet against them in some games, and I'm going to take some of those mid-level long shots. And everyone else is between 12 and 40 to 1.
Make some money.
Is going to cash
there is there's so much pressure on them.
I love it. Mariah, Janos, Jack Williams, Steve Cofield. I'm Mike Davis. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll see you next time on Sin City Beat.